Anybody who watches this channel regularly will know that we spend an enormous amount of time looking for the best quality parts cheaply, but despite that, we've spent just under £10,000 getting the car to this stage. By the time we have taken the subframes off, powder coated them, we placed the axle shafts, dust springs, all the suspension, engine mounts, etc., possibly a new soft top hood, I estimate we'll probably have spent another £3,000 to £5,000. In the remainder of this video, I'm going to show you how you can save thousands of pounds on your restoration simply by knowing where to look for good quality parts for your classic restoration. You can look up part numbers for most cars, including classic Mercedes, Audis, modern cars, etc., at the site below. Once you have the number of the part you're looking for, my advice would be to go along to Mercedes in this case and ask them if that part is still available either in the UK or in Germany, how much it costs and how long it'll take to get to you. Because in my experience, I have found many occasions where Mercedes is actually the cheapest source of parts, especially the smaller nuts and bolts that you're going to need for a restoration. Once I have the price and availability from Mercedes, the second thing I tend to do is go along to Euro Parts, who are based in America, and have a look at their online catalogue to see if they can supply the same or similar part at a better price. As I've mentioned before, if you're not a wholesaler, you can go along to Rock Auto and either put in the Euro part number or the Mercedes part number, and they can deliver in America or in Europe, the UK, and once again they supply all kinds of parts for all sorts of vehicles. Just arrived in the post is a package from Euro, all the way from America, arrived in super quick time, and we'll be unboxing this later and just showing you a few of the parts that they supply that we'll be using on this restoration here. This is just my own view, other people may have their opinions, but personally I tend to stay away from Chinese manufacturers and Asian manufacturers when it comes to buying parts for the Mercedes. One of the companies that we do like to use is a German company called FEBI, F-E-B-I. They once again sell hundreds, if not thousands, of parts for not just classic Mercedes, but for all cars. And if you go along to the link below, you can generally use that to look up the FEBI part number and then whiz over to eBay to see who can supply that at the best price. eBay is a superb source for car parts, both second-hand and new, and in my experience the advantage of dealing through eBay is that it's quick and cheap delivery, and in most cases a no quibble money back guarantee if you've bought the wrong part or it's faulty. In my experience, whilst Amazon has an amazing distribution network, the parts are almost invariably more expensive on Amazon than they are on eBay. Here is a short list of some of our favorite eBay suppliers. We use these guys because they tend to supply the same parts for much less. They tend to deliver more quickly, and if it is ever a problem, you've bought the wrong part or it's defective, you can send it back and get a replacement or your money back with no questions asked. One of the best sources for classic Mercedes parts is of course the SL shop based up in Stratford. We use them for a whole multitude of parts. Some parts you can't get from anywhere else because they fix and restore and sell so many cars that it's worth their while to remanufacture parts and make up parts themselves and refurbish parts from the injection pumps, from pagodas to all sorts of things. So they have a fantastic team of people in the parts department, and whilst they may not always be the cheapest for every part, we use them frequently, and it's definitely worth giving them a call if you're looking for something specific. I know there are lots of sites around the world specializing in classic Mercedes parts, but two worthy of mention is MB Classics in Germany. We've often used them for parts, and also SLS also in Germany. Sometimes these sites are the only place that I've been able to find certain parts, and sometimes they sell the parts I'm after much more cheaply than anyone else. There are a couple of Mercedes breakers yards in the UK that are always worth checking out for obscure parts. We took an old SL there for braking, and we'll probably end up taking our gold 450 SL parts car there for braking. So if you're looking for obscure parts that you can't find anywhere else, for an old SL or any other old Mercedes, it's worth checking out Classic Mercedes Parts. There are also Facebook groups and a couple of individuals that have field full of old SLs that they're breaking. So if you do ever need parts and you can't find what you're looking for, it's always worth dropping us a comment on the YouTube channel and we can generally point you in the right direction. In the next few videos, we're going to be fitting some of the parts that are in this box. So let's just have a look and see what has come from Europe. These here are the side door trims that fit on the door. There are 3 per side and you can get all of those from Euro. What you'll generally find on your car is that that hook there is missing and that screw there is either non-existent or completely rusted. These trims click on here and you can get these either from Mercedes or you can get them online. It's worth renewing these little clips to make sure that clips on nice and tightly. And if you buy these trims from Euro, they also come with little strips of double-sided tape, so don't forget to take that off. These side trims here should also be attached with plastic nuts, which you can get from the SL shop. I have done a whole series of videos on how to refurbish these trims, but you can still get the end screws and hooks from places like the SL shop, but when you buy them from Euro, that all comes complete. And of course you get the Mercedes part number as well. Do you know, for years I wasn't able to open this door because the car was parked there against that wall, but now that we can open the door and move it, we can go set about fitting the door seals here, this lower trim piece, this little piece of trim here. Once again, all of these parts available from Euro. In here we also have some vacuum parts. That there is a little check valve and a vacuum fitting that we'll use when we start hooking up all the vacuum pipes for the car. At the back there you can see the heater blower motor and the lack of a cover, and hopefully that has also arrived. You can get a new blower motor from Euro. Often these will be really squeaky and screechy, which is the case in this car, so we'll be fitting that. And underneath here is the cover. Now on later cars, this little piece of plastic trim here, which covers some of the connections underneath, I'm talking about this piece here, was actually separate to the cover itself, but on later cars it's all integral, so we'll be fitting that. Underneath there is a rubber seal which we got from Mercedes. Wow, I've never seen that on any of these blower motor covers before. A little bit of foam, presumably so you don't scratch the paint when you put it on. It's a nice little touch. When we get this car up on our ramp and set about doing the suspension, we have got some nice new drop links here. Now these ones come with plastic casings here. In the old days they used to come with metal sheaths which you would always rust away. I noticed these also come with the black lock nuts, which is nice. These here are the lower control arm bushings and they will fit there. There's 2 on either side, and these funny shaped washers here, you can adjust those to adjust the camber on your car. And these here will be the upper control arm bushings, which you can't really see very well on this car. It's a little bit dark, but there'll be 4 of those, I believe. We've also ordered a couple of these prop shaft pilot bearings. At the time I was doing my silver SL during COVID lockdown, I remember ordering a couple of these from the SL shop. They were so expensive, but we've got a couple that I'm looking forward to fit when we get round to doing the prop shaft on this car. This drive shaft bearing here is invariably knackered on most SLs I've ever looked at, so we'll be fitting a new one of those. Last but not least, lurking in the bottom of this box is the soft top cover cable. Now on this car here, this cable is broken, and the subject of the next video will be how to fix the soft top cover cables and how this whole mechanism works. So if you do ever get stuck and you can't open your soft top or take your hard top off, the next video will show you how to do all of that. It's just a very small range of some of the parts that were available from Euro, and in the forthcoming videos we will be fitting all of those parts to this car. I'm going to finish this video here just with a brief rundown of the snag list, i.e. all the things I still need to do on this soft top. We're probably going to need to get the soft top retrimmed. We're going to have to replace one of those cables, secure the soft top handle, put all the levers in, and reattach the catch on that. The front lights are pretty much done. I just need to put in 2 additional screws, although I have just noticed that what's missing on this car, which is really annoying because I could have got that repainted when we got the bonnet painted, is these little covers here. So we'll need to source some of those and get those painted. They cover all of these screw fittings here. I don't think the rear brake lights are working on this car, so we're going to have to investigate whether that's an electrical problem and if there's actually a brake switch on this car. The brakes feel a bit squishy, so we will bleed those brakes. And also this hose here, I need to try and source some of this hose that isn't collapsible, because when the engine is on and there's a vacuum, this hose is being sucked shut, which isn't good. On the grille, we're just waiting for a new set of these from one of our subscribers via eBay. We need to whiz up to the SL shop and put some bonnet insulation on this car. We're going to have to reattach all the windscreen wiper hoses, and in fact the windscreen wipers are going to need reattaching on this car. We've got this piece of chrome trim here, we've got to reattach that, and these scuttle panels here as well. Inside the engine bay, we've got to fit a new blower motor and a new cover and seal on there. We have to at some stage hook up all the vacuum lines to this car. We're going to need to do an oil change on this car and also put some thermocure in the cooling system, let that circulate and take out any additional rust. This car was originally fitted with aircon. None of that is hooked up at the moment, so we may see if we can get the air conditioning working. Not that I think we'll need that in this country, but this is a left-hand drive car and may ultimately go to France, Spain or Italy, somewhere like that. On the suspension, we've ordered new rear shocks. We're going to take the rear subframe off, powder coat it, take off the rear swings, powder coat that, the rear sway bar, powder coat that, fit new front shocks, remove subframe, powder coat that, remove the front springs and powder coat them too. Probably be removing the rear differential, cleaning that up and fitting new axle shafts and a rear differential seal. We've got the drive shaft bearing. We'll be fitting new flex discs, new central bearing as well. On the rear wheels, we're going to have to attach the handbrake cables, probably put new dust shields on this car and refurbish all the brake shoes and probably renew them. The doors are going to be a big job to do. We've got to not just fit the door handles. On this side, we've got to fit a door stop in there. We've got to fit the door cards, the membrane. We've got to fit the mirrors. On this side, we've also got to fit the A-pillar chrome, glue in all the trims and the door seal. We've got to adjust the windows, which is a bit of a job in itself, so that when the windows go up, they fit perfectly in these seals here with no gaps. We've got to finish fitting this A-pillar trim here, and also there are some special clips that fit this A-pillar trim on, which we've got to fit. We'll probably have to drill some screw holes and tap some threads in to get the screws in here. Got to procure some sun visors for this car or refurbish the ones that we've got. Figure out why our central electrics have all stopped working here. There should be lights between the sliders and also underneath here when you turn the ignition. They're not working at the moment. We're going to have to fit all the underdash trims, the door lights, the insulation, take that fuse box and clean all the fuses thoroughly, put a new fuse box cover on there. On this side, we're going to have to take that panel off, get to the vacuum chamber and see what's going on there. We've got to fit the trimmer here. We've got to hook up all the heater hoses and make sure that's all working. Underneath the car, we've got to do some welding on the exhaust bracket. We've got to fit some heat shields, probably new engine mounts, and just secure the fuel and brake pipes. Here in the boot or trunk, we've got to decide whether to fit carpets. The early cars didn't actually have carpets on these panels here. We've got to sort out the lights for the number plate. Also, the boot light isn't connected at the moment. And I must remember that there's no spare wheel in this car, although we do obviously have 4 wheels on our parts car, so we need to remember to take one of those wheels off before we take that car to the graveyard. Also in the engine bay, we need to locate these grommets here, buy some of those grommets. We need to fit a piece of foam trim to the back here. And that is just some of the things that we know about. I am sure there'll be much more as we go along. So the one thing you can say about this car, it's not short of YouTube content.